with our motto, let learning be a joy and teaching a pleasure. Here we are with a remote teaching and learning process to bridge the gap. Happy learning, students.
This quote says, "Our foibles are really what make us lovable." Is it really so? Let's check the meaning of the word foible. It means a quirk, idiosyncrasy, or mannerism. Also, it means unusual habit or way. Foibles. Let's observe this picture. There's a lady saying, "I never eat more than one thing." Does she do the same thing? Doesn't seem so. We can see more than one food item laid on the table, and the person sitting next to her is quite amused. The chapter we are going to start today, students, it has to do with mannerism or foible. Also, it will become clear towards the end of the chapter whether the quote is really true or no. Do our foibles really make us lovable? Always. Let's see. 4.2, The Luncheon, written by the famous writer Somerset Maugham. William Somerset Maugham was a distinguished British playwright, novelist, and short story writer. It is a delightful humorous narrative, The Luncheon, a slice of life story about Maugham's luncheon date proposed to him by a woman whom he hopes is a supporter of his art. Page number 151. Okay, before we start, let us know that it is a humorous narrative, that is, the writer himself is a narrator. It is written in the first person pronoun. The meaning of the title of the text, that is, the luncheon, is a formal lunch or a light midday meal. We'll come to know why the title is so. And also, idioms have been used in this chapter. So, idiom is a phrase, saying, or a group of words that has a metaphorical meaning, that is not literal or not word to word meaning. So, we start with the first paragraph. The first paragraph, where the writer mentions him meeting a lady after 20 years during watching a play. And what do we come to know? That the writer did not recognize the lady by looking at her, but he recognized the lady by someone else mentioning her name. So the writer could not recognize the lady had someone not mentioned her name. But the lady addressed the writer brightly. And who was this lady? The lady was an admirer of the writer, Somerset Maugham. Now we'll see the meanings. In the first paragraph, first line, the writer caught sight of the lady at the play. Caught sight of is an idiom and it means glimpse for a moment or suddenly noticed. Now, the second paragraph, the lady talks to the writer. She is excited, as we already know, the way she addressed the writer, that is brightly. And she's talking about how time flies because they are meeting after 20 years. And she asked whether the writer remembers the time they had met for luncheon, that is 20 years ago. And what is the answer of the writer in the third paragraph? It is a question itself. Did I remember? Now, it is a rhetorical question. Also, you can say there is not humor, but there is irony in this reply. As it is a humorous narrative, we'll also come across irony in this text. Now, what is meant by irony? Irony is this the expression of one's meaning by using language that normally signifies the opposite. Typically, for humorous, you can say text or effect. Now, it was 20 years ago. The writer takes us back in the time, that is 20 years ago, when he was living in Paris in a tiny apartment and he was earning barely enough money. Now, barely enough money, that he was earning almost no money. He was a struggler that time, he was struggling 20 years ago. And this lady had read his book, and that is why she had written to the writer about it, maybe for praising the writer's writing style and the book. And then the writer had thanked her. And presently, that is 20 years ago, as the writer is mentioning, he received from her another letter where she mentioned she was passing through Paris and would like to have a chat with the writer. But she had limited time. Only free moment that she had was on the following Thursday, and she wanted to have a little luncheon at Foyot's after the chat. Now, Foyot's is a restaurant where the lady wanted to meet the writer. What do we come to know about Foyot's? That it was an expensive restaurant in France, and according to the writer, it was so far beyond his means that he had never even thought of going there. So it was far beyond the writer's means. Now, what does that mean? It is an idiom. Far beyond means it means too costly for one. And it is very much natural, as we know that time the writer was a struggler. So obviously it was far beyond his means to go to such an expensive restaurant. But did the writer say no? Let's see. The writer had only 80 francs to last him for the rest of the month. Francs is the basic monetary unit of France. Also, other countries, Belgium, Switzerland, and Luxembourg. So he had only 80 francs with him, and he had to, you can say, use that 80 francs for the whole month. And a modest luncheon, according to him, should not cost more than 15. So that was his thinking process. And what do we come to know? He was thinking to meet the lady for luncheon at Foyot's, and he was calculating whatever money he had that time. And then he thought of cutting down his coffee for next 2 weeks so that he could manage well enough, as he calculated. And what is the amount that he calculated for luncheon at Foyot's? It was 15 francs. So that is what he calculated, and he thought to meet the lady at Foyot's for luncheon. And according to him, it would be 15 francs only, and he will still have money for the rest of the month. He could do better if he cuts on his coffee for next 2 weeks. So, what do we come to know? The writer did not say no to the lady. The writer could not say no. Now, in the next paragraph of page number 151, we come to know about the lady as they are meeting in the restaurant Foyot's. She was in appearance imposing rather than attractive, and she gave me the impression of having more teeth, white and large and even, than were necessary for any practical purpose. Now, what do we come to know about the lady's appearance? So, the appearance was attractive, imposing, that is, grand and impressive in appearance. What do we come to know? The lady was grand and impressive only in appearance and not actually. And also, we come to know about her having more teeth. That is an idiom, and it means that power to enforce something. We come to know that lady was a snob. Page number 152. Also, we come to know about the lady that she was talkative and she talked a lot. She kept on talking, and the writer was listening to her. Now, what was the reason for the writer doing so or being an attentive listener to that lady? And the reason is because she talked about the writer, and that is why the writer was attentively listening to her. And then the writer was startled. What is meant by startled? That is felt or showed sudden shock or alarm. Now, what was the reason for writer to be or to get startled? Seeing the menu that was brought for the price were a great deal higher than he had thought. But the lady reassured the writer. That is, the lady said or did something to remove the doubts or fears of the writer. And what did she say? I never eat anything for luncheon. And that was something that was soothing for the writer at that time. And that is why he said, oh, don't say that, in a generous manner. And then she continued, I never eat more than one thing. And she thought that people eat for too much. And according to her, she will only have a little fish. And what kind of fish or which fish did she want to have? That was salmon. Salmon is a kind of fish, orangey pink flesh of a large silver colored fish which is eaten as food. So she wanted to have salmon, and she had assured the writer that she only had one thing for luncheon. Well, it was early in the year for salmon and it was not on the menu. So, this is what we come to know about the fish. Salmon was not in the menu because it was early for in the year. That is not, it was not the season. But I asked the waiter if there was any, and the writer asked if there was any salmon that time. And they got to know that there was a beautiful salmon that just came in, and it was the first they had had. And then the writer ordered the salmon for his guest, and the waiter asked whether they wanted to have something else while it was being cooked. What was the answer of the lady? No. As we already know, she had said that did not have anything, she does not have any more than one thing for luncheon. And to this, she added, unless you had a little caviar. So she already had ordered for salmon and she wanted to have caviar while salmon was being cooked. And the reason she gave for doing so is that she would not mind having a little caviar. So this was the only dish according to her. She can add up to that one more that one dish that she always have for lunch. And then the writer, he knew that he could not afford caviar because it is again an expensive dish. So what is this caviar? A processed salted roe of large fish, a kind of egg. Now, that is why the writer, for himself, he chose the cheapest dish in the menu. And what was that? Mutton chop. And the lady criticized him, saying that he was unwise to eat meat, and doing so, he was going to overload his stomach. Overloading stomach, it means overeating. Can you believe the lady had already ordered salmon and added a caviar, and she started to criticize the writer for ordering or for having mutton chop? The lady ate the caviar and the salmon, and she continued to talk gaily of or about art and literature and music. So, what manner did she talk about all this? In a gaily manner, that is, in a cheerful or light-hearted way. But the writer was not listening, actually, not listening to her as she was talking. What was the reason? Where was the writer's mind? It was on the bill. He was thinking about what the bill would come to. And then, when the mutton chop arrived for the writer, the lady took him quite seriously to task. What does that mean? It is an idiom again. Took me to task, it means criticized him for mistake. What was the writer's mistake? That is ordering a mutton chop. And what did he say while criticizing him? That according to her, he was in the habit of eating a heavy luncheon and it was a mistake. And she wanted the writer to follow her example. What was her example? To eat only one thing. But did she do so? Was she eating only one thing for luncheon? No. And then she added she would feel sorry to leave Paris without having those giant asparagus. Now, at the time when she was criticizing the writer for ordering mutton chop, for having mutton chop, she added one more dish to the menu, and that was giant asparagus. After ordering salmon and caviar, the lady orders asparagus. It is a plant with pale green juicy stems that are cooked and eaten as vegetable. And the writer's heart sank. Now, did his heart really sink? It is an idiom. It means suddenly felt very worried or disappointed. So the writer got worried, and the reason we very well know. Because the writer already knew how expensive, that is horribly expensive, those asparagus, you can say that asparagus were, as you already had seen in shops. And the writer always wanted to have them, but he could not. And we can say, seeing the second last paragraph of the page, the last line, that is, my mouth had often watered at the sight of them. I am not in the least hungry, my guest sighed, but if you insist, I don't mind having some asparagus. I ordered them. And then the lady says that she would not mind having some asparagus if the writer insists, but we know that the writer did not insist her. So she added one more dish to the menu, and it was the fourth one. Page number 153 and 154. The lady did offer asparagus to the writer, but he refused to have. Now, as they were waiting for the asparagus to be cooked, panic seized the writer. Panic seized is an idiom, and what does it mean? Under sudden uncontrollable fear or anxiety, often causing wildly unthinking behavior. So the writer was under panic, and we already know what was that panic, or what was the reason for the panic. It was not a question now how much money I should have left over the rest of the month, but whether I had enough to pay the bill. What do we come to know? Now the writer was not thinking about the rest of the month, that how was he going to manage the rest of the month. At that time, that point of time, his only concern was to pay the bill, whether he would have enough money to pay the bill or no, because the lady kept adding up dishes to the menu. It would be mortifying, according to him, to find himself 10 francs short and be obliged to borrow from his guest. He was also calculating, and this is what he calculated, that and that is why it would be mortifying for him if he did not have enough money to pay the bill, and if he was 10 francs short, and that time he would have to borrow from the guest, and that was going to be mortifying for him. Mortifying, that is causing great embarrassment or shame. It would be shameful for him, embarrassing for him to borrow from his guest. Also, what he thought of, he made up his mind that he would act or enact. And what was that going to be? That is, putting his hand in his pocket with a dramatic cry, standing up and saying that his pocket had been picked. So, this was what he was thinking of doing. Of course, it would be awkward if she had not enough money either to pay the bill, and that would have been when the lady also would not have enough money to pay the bill. Then the only thing would be to leave my watch and say I would come back and pay later. So that was when the lady also would not have enough money to pay the bill. So this is what he thought of doing, that is handing over or leaving his watch to the restaurant and saying that he would come back and pay later. So he was ready to face the consequences, whatever it was. He was prepared. And then the asparagus appeared. And how did the lady eat? According to the writer, he watched her thrust them down her throat in large mouthfuls. Thrust down throat idiom, it means ate quickly or in large mouthfuls. So this is how the lady ate. We can say that the lady seems to be hungry. Okay, seeing or knowing the act and also saying something else and doing the other. So what does that mean? Can it be a foible of that lady? Yes. So this is what the lady did. She said something else and the act was totally different. And then the the writer offered her coffee, and then she said yes, just an ice cream and coffee. And the writer was past caring now. He was not bothered now. Okay, so he ordered coffee for himself and an ice cream and coffee for the lady. And then the lady says, there's one thing I thoroughly believe in. And what was that? Same thing. One should always get up from a meal feeling one could eat a little more. So, again, we can say that this kind of fiber that the lady had, saying something else and doing totally different. To this, the writer asked whether she was still hungry, and the manner the writer asked was in a faintly manner. The lady said no, she was not hungry, and then she said that she didn't eat luncheon. She has cup of coffee in the morning and then dinner, but she never eats more than one thing for luncheon. And the lady was speaking for the writer. So, what do we come to know? That the lady was still had this feeling of eating or the possibility of eating more, according to her, after eating salmon, caviar, asparagus, coffee, and ice cream. But then she was criticizing the writer for having mutton chop. According to her, the writer overloaded himself or his stomach. And then a terrible thing happened. And what was that terrible thing? While they were waiting for the coffee, the head waiter came up to us bearing a large basket full of huge peaches. And then a waiter crossed with a basket of peaches. But surely peaches were not in season then. And what do we come to know? If they were not in season and still they were available, they were going to be more expensive. Now, there is a sentence that is exclamatory. Lord knew what they cost. And through this, we can guess the condition of the writer and also that the peaches were expensive. I knew a little later, for my guest, going on with her conversation, absent mindedly took one. And what did the lady do? Absent mindedly, she picked one peach from that basket as they were talking. And then the same thing. You see, you have filled your stomach with a lot of meat. My one miserable little chop. That is the writer's, and the lady still was criticizing him. And you can't eat any more. But I have just had a snack, and I shall enjoy a peach. And this was the excuse the lady gave because she had light meal, only snack, and that is why she was able to enjoy peach and not the writer. The bill came, and when the writer paid, he found that he had only enough for quite inadequate tip. Now, what do we come to know? That the writer was able to pay the bill, but he did not have adequate amount to pay the tip. Her eyes rested for an instant on the 3 francs I left for the waiter. Now, how much did he keep as tip? Only 3 francs, and that was less. That is why her eyes rested on those 3 francs. Now, eyes rested on is an idiom, and what does that mean? Looked only at a particular object or person. Looking at those 3 francs, the writer understood that the lady was thinking him as mean, but he could not help. He did not have any other way. But when he walked out of the restaurant, he had the whole month before him, and he did not have a single penny in his pocket. And the lady again started asking him to follow her example, that is eating only one thing for luncheon and not more than that. To this the writer retorted. It is another word for, we can say, said, replied. So the word retorted, it means replied angrily. This is the manner the writer replied, and why we already know. The writer was irritated ultimately. So what did he retorted? What did he retort? I'll do better than that. And according to him, he was able to do better than not eating more than one thing for luncheon. And what was that? He says, I'll eat nothing for dinner tonight. So that is not eating at all, not eating dinner that night. And the lady calls him a humorist, a person who regularly writes or tells amusing stories. Yes, he was a writer, and he used to write, you can say, writings as humor, but that time it was not humor at all, it was irony. So, what does that mean when he said that he will not eat dinner that night? We already know that he did not have a single penny left in his pocket, and that is why he was not going to eat anything. So, that was the reason, and not whatever the lady was thinking. And then the lady leaves. The last paragraph of page number 154, that is, the writer takes us back again to the present time, that is where he had met the lady during a play. According to him, he had his revenge at last. Now, we never knew that he was thinking about a revenge, and he actually was not. He adds, I do not believe that I am a vindictive man, but when the gods take a hand in the matter, and it is understandable to observe the result with satisfaction. According to him, he was not a vindictive man, that is revengeful. He never thought about any kind of revenge. But then, according to him, that when the gods take a hand in the matter, take a hand in the matter idiom, it means to deal with the problem yourself. So, according to him, that was satisfying for himself. And what was that satisfying for himself? That is in the last line of the text. Today she weighs 21 stone. So that was the weight of the lady that satisfied the writer. That is 294 pounds. So the lady eventually weighed 294 pounds because of her eating habits. So according to him, she would never have more than one thing for luncheon, but then we know it is a kind of foible. That is foible. Uh, we know it is a kind of habit, unusual habit, and we also should know that people with foibles are often not conscious of them, and so is in the case of the lady. But whatever happened to the writer, he had to face problem, and after 20 years he gets to see the lady again, and the way the lady, you can say, shaped on after 20 years, the writer is satisfied, and according to him it was his revenge, but he did not play any part in this revenge. And the lady, whatever happened to the lady, it was because of her foible. So this is how the story ends. Now, two things we come to know about or we learn from the story. The mistake the writer did, that he could not say no to the lady even when he did not afford to go to such an expensive restaurant. And the other thing we get to learn, that appearances are deceptive. That is, the lady, whatever she appeared, whoever she appeared, and whatever she said, she was not actually the same. So these are the lessons learned from the story. Solved questions from the textbook. These can be taken as screen. Stay safe, students. Thank you. See you soon. क्या करे बता